Welcome back to this episode of Innovation Nation, folks. Today, we're going to be talking about mindset, specifically the innovation mindset, the kinds of thinking and the kinds of attitudes and behaviors that create innovation. Specifically, what we're going to be talking about today are four kinds of people: the inventor, the innovator, the entrepreneur, and something that you haven't heard of before, or maybe not, called the intrapreneur. These are four critical people that make so much difference in our lives. And when you find these people and can combine them together, either in one person or in a team, you can create a lot of value with innovation. So let's talk about the first one. Thomas Edison, the inventor, right? Everyone knows that Thomas Edison invented the light bulb. He's the father of electricity. And if you thought that he invented the light bulb, you'd be wrong. Kind of. You see, Thomas Edison didn't invent the light bulb. At the time when the light bulb was invented, there were more than 20 other groups who had many different versions of the light bulb. It was in fact that in around 1879, Thomas Edison bought the patent of a carbonized filament from a Canadian inventor named Woodward. About a year later, he came up with the light bulb that could last more than 1,000 hours. Now, what Thomas Edison was, certainly he was an inventor, but he was an innovator. And the reason that he was more than an inventor is because his greatest work was the creation of the Industrial Research and Development Park. You see, what he did is he had invented the telegraph, and he negotiated to sell it to Western Union for $10,000. Somewhere around 236 to 250,000 US dollars in today's money. He took that money and he invested it into creating a new research and development park, and he built a team of engineers and inventors who would work for him in Menlo Park, New Jersey. And so it was through that exercise that Thomas Edison eventually innovated the light bulb. Why do I say innovated? Because, well, the light bulb wasn't created by him. There were versions of the light bulb going back more than 100 years. Many of them were impractical. Some of them just didn't burn long enough, or they didn't last long enough, or they burned too bright and they were not usable. What Edison did from an innovation standpoint is he tested 50,000 different types of materials to come up with the perfect long burning, right brightness filament for a light bulb. That happened to be carbonized Japanese bamboo. And the light bulb that we knew throughout the incandescent light bulb that we came to know throughout much of the 20th century was born. The 1,000, 1,500 hour light bulb started with a bamboo filament. Later, it was innovated further using tungsten. And so Thomas Edison certainly was an inventor, but not for what you thought. He was an innovator. He combined many people to magnify his ideas and get them to do the research and development to come up with many different products. In fact, over the course of his lifetime, he patented 1,093 different inventions, many of which are still in use today in one version or another. So he was more than an inventor. He was also an innovator. Now, the world's most famous recent innovator is Steve Jobs. Now, Steve Jobs was an innovator. Why? Because he created new things by combining old things. You see, the iPhone that we all have come to know and love him for, and even the iPod, and even the iPad, weren't new inventions. When you look at the components that were brought together, an MP3 player, a phone, a mobile internet device, an app store. All of those things existed in other ways. What Steve Jobs did was create something new by combining things that already existed in new and different ways. He always said, think differently. And he said that the innovator will always be the leader, not the follower. But he didn't invent things. Now, what he was great at was having a vision for what something could be, often a new creation through innovation that his customers didn't even know they wanted or needed yet. Now, I personally knew that I wanted it and needed it because I remember using a Palm Pilot, and I would connect it to my phone and try to figure out how to send emails. And I had a Bluetooth remote little separate GPS unit that I could load maps onto my Palm Pilot to try to do all the things that an iPod and an iPhone eventually did. But it was Jobs who used innovation, took all these ideas that were existing technology and combined them in a new and better way, and arguably created the world's most successful innovation of all human history in terms of its success financially. And it did eventually, that change made Apple one, if not the most successful companies of all time. The entrepreneur. Now, we all know this man, Elon Musk. Now, what does Elon Musk do differently than the inventor or the innovator? Well, he takes a lot of risk, of course. There's a lot of risk. But he's taking ideas and taking them from a lower level of productivity to a higher level of productivity. Musk's methodology comes back to a critical thinking process called first principles. He looked at the rocket, he looked at the electric car and said, these things are too expensive for us to be able to grow them. And first principles thinking said, well, what are all the key components and what are all the expensive parts of those devices? And he figured out that the most expensive thing about space travel was building a rocket to throw it away. And so he devised a way to change the mindset of the way that space travel would happen, taking the building of a rocket from a lower level of productivity to a much higher level of productivity. In the electric car business, Musk really wasn't trying to build an electric car. He saw that there was a need for that, but there were other people who were building electric cars. But what was the big limitation and scale of the electric car? Well, one was range, and two was the cost of producing batteries that could supply that range. And there's still a lot of work to do there, obviously. But what he did is he looked at the raw materials like lithium and other core materials that go into an electric car's battery. And he figured out that he could, with time, make them 30, if not 100 times cheaper, and all of a sudden extend the range and lower the cost and create a whole new industry in space travel, in solar electricity, in electric cars. And so from an entrepreneurial standpoint, he took a lot of risks, but he also made them calculated. It's important to note that he created the idea of electronic payments with PayPal long before this. But when he sold PayPal to eBay, he took all of his earnings from that sale and he risked it all in starting SpaceX. He had enough money for 3, maybe 4 launches and to justify getting a contract from NASA. And his first 3 failed. Now, he could have given up, taken his last bits of money and said, I think I'm going to hedge my bets, but he didn't. He bet it all. The 4th launch was successful, and SpaceX is now got so much momentum that's going to be really interesting to see what they do over the next 10 years. So when you think about innovation and that productivity triangle, you need these elements. You need creativity. You need people who can innovate, can take different ideas and tweak them and combine them in new and different ways. And you need an entrepreneurial mindset of how do we take some risk, the right level of risk, and take productivity from one level to a new level. Now, this doesn't all have to be one person. And in fact, if there's one thing that these three entrepreneur, inventor, and innovators can tell you, is they built strong teams around them almost right from the beginning. So let's talk about what the definition is of an entrepreneur. Well, in modern days, in modern history, there was an economist in the early 1800s named Jean-Baptiste Say, and he was the first modern economist to define entrepreneur. The entrepreneur shifts economic resources out of an area of low and into an area of higher productivity and greater yield. That is what an entrepreneur does. Doesn't mean that they start the company. Doesn't mean that you have to be an Elon Musk or a Thomas Edison or a Steve Jobs to take economic resources from a lower level to a higher level of productivity and return. But the idea of being an entrepreneur goes back way further than the early 1800s. In Sanskrit, in ancient Sanskrit, the entrepreneur is defined by the word iksana. The word means the one with sight, the one who cares for, the one who looks after. It's the one who has a vision for something new and better. So when you take those ideas together, you can come up with a new modern definition of what an entrepreneur is. The new definition of an entrepreneur is the one who has a vision to create and care for a new way to take resources to a higher level of productivity to create value. I wrote that. But I'm really just combining those two ideas of new productivity, new value, new levels, and having a vision to create and care for it. And that means each and every one of us inside of a business can have an entrepreneurial mindset. But if you are not the owner or the creator or the starter of the company, then you're something else. You're an intrapreneur. You have this energy to create change, to take new ideas, to be inventive and innovative and entrepreneurial, to take some levels of risk, to take and spot lower levels of productivity and lower levels of effectiveness in your business and take them to higher levels. In fact, you're an in-house entrepreneur, and every company needs many intrapreneurs to be successful, no matter if you are a two-person startup or a 10,000-person energy company or construction firm. Having intrapreneurs inside of your business is key to driving innovation. Without an entrepreneur, there is no innovation. There is simply a lot of research and development and really long, drawn-out processes to take new ideas and get them implemented. So inside of small and medium-sized businesses and corporations, both public and private, as they grow, they get complex. And so with that complexity, it's really important that we have systems to communicate our vision and our purpose. We need those systems, but if we allow them to be too complicated, things can slow down. So we need simple processes. Simplified processes equals productivity. We require controls. We need spending controls and engineering and quality, safety controls. But we also need to make sure that we're not having controls for control's sake, that they must be integrated into workflow. We have lots of things we need to be compliant about, from taxes to safety to engineering. But we should automate and digitize these as much as possible so we have less administration. We need approval processes, but approval processes should start with collaboration and communicating, not simply submitting approvals for them to go into the ether. And we've all experienced that, where we have submitted something to be approved and we don't know where it goes, if it's going to come back and when. And so we need to make sure that our approval processes involve collaboration and communication before we press submit. Now, inside of both small and medium businesses and corporations, as we grow, we start to get departmental complexity. But we need to be really proactive to make sure that we remove silos. We can't be making decisions in engineering that manufacturing aren't capable of creating. We can't make decisions in operations that are not in collaboration with safety and inspection and with quality, with accounting, with finance, with legal. And so making sure that we have strong, innovative, collaborative teams by removing silos is key to making sure that all of our organizations can foster an innovator's mindset. Now, there are some very unique differences between an entrepreneur and what I would call a bureaucratic mindset. When we get into a business and we get too strict, we get too tight, we get too stiff, we go from being productive to being bureaucratic. And everyone will agree that no one wants to be bureaucratic. But as companies get larger and more complex, we do. Sometimes unintentionally. Sometimes it's just because that's the way we've done things for so long. And so what we've got to be focused on with an entrepreneurial mindset is we want to look at value and results focused, not have a mindset of price, time, and effort focused. If you can do something in 10 hours and nothing gets done, or you can get it done in 2 hours, which one is creating the most value? So have this value first and results focused mindset. In an entrepreneurial mindset, we learn with action. We learn by doing. In a bureaucratic mindset, we learn by researching and studying and not necessarily applying it. Endless courses and certifications that are never applied to our work. In an entrepreneurial mindset, we are innovation focused. We are trying to create change, create new value. In a bureaucratic mindset, we are compliant focused. We want to stick to the rules, the letter of exactly how it's written, without challenging, without pushing. In an entrepreneurial mindset, we want to be differentiated. There are no two same people. There are no two same companies, because you can differentiate in many, many ways. And we're focused on how do we differentiate in an entrepreneurial mindset. In a bureaucratic mindset, we're all the same. We all dress the same. We all do the same. And we're cookie cutters, and we become numbers in the cog of the system. And we're simply trying to ride out our time. In an entrepreneurial mindset, we are focused on change and growth. And in a bureaucratic mindset, we are focused on stability and resist change. In an entrepreneurial mindset, we focus on people's courage to make a contribution. And in a bureaucratic mindset, we are focused on titles and status and rank and file. Very different kinds of mindsets between an entrepreneurial mindset and a bureaucratic mindset. And you can have an entrepreneurial mindset inside of any organization, as a team leader, as a team member, as a department leader, as a regional leader. Having an entrepreneurial mindset creates value in ways that a bureaucratic mindset never can and never will. So the new definition for you as an intrapreneur is any person inside of any organization who has a vision to create value and higher productivity and has the courage to take action and drive change with innovation. I wrote that. So whether you choose a path where you are an entrepreneur, where you actually start the thing, or you're an intrapreneur, everything about those two paths is so similar that the mindsets are the same, that you can have the same levels of pursuing mastery, of autonomy, of a sense of direction, of a sense of contribution, whether you're an intrapreneur or an entrepreneur. You can make that decision, but try to make the decision to be one or the other and not bureaucratic, because you can create change when you have that focus. When you focus on innovation, maybe you can be the next person to invent the light bulb. Next time on Innovation Nation, we're going to talk about creating value through innovation beyond what you do by combining hows. Until next time, folks, thanks for joining Innovation Nation. Talk soon. Bye now.